Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the Apostolic Children's Ministry podcast. We are delighted to have two friends and incredible people in children's ministry with us today, Brother and Sister James and Kim Pelletier from Oklahoma City. Welcome. Thank you again. And Brother James has been on the podcast before. And actually, Sister Pelletier, you've been on it too, but it was as a massive group up in Dallas, I believe. Yeah. Yep. But how have you guys been, by the way? Have you guys been doing all okay lately?
Yep.
Life is good.
Good. Well, the last few minutes, if you could have been a fly on the wall, watching my end as I scrambled to get this podcast set up, it was pitiful. It was pitiful. I'm typically not the worst at tech, but today I was. It was pitiful. So with that auspicious beginning, we're going to go ahead and just dive into this. But the Pelletiers have been very key in our curriculum writing with we have a team of, 11, 12. I don't even remember. I haven't done a total lately. But you guys have been in it since the very beginning. And I just love to get kind of some of your thoughts on where we're at right now and kind of a little bit about the journey. So we've got some really positive feedback on it so far, but where are you guys at on it? How do you feel that the whole project, the curriculum is progressing as a whole?
I feel like it's a dream come true. You know, it's something that I think we've talked about amongst ourselves for years and years, and to see it finally happening is a crazy cool, exciting thing. But then, the first quarter's out, it's in testing, live testing, and the whole product is really there. And you look at it and it's just so, to me, it's cool to see, but at the same time, it's still just a baby, it's got so much, that's one quarter out of 12. So we've got a long way to keep trucking and keep going, but it sure is exciting to see this first quarter out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long way to go, but when I'm looking, I feel like we're a little bit, maybe not ahead of our initial plans, because those are pretty lofty, but we really have quarters 1 and 2 completely written.
Yeah.
2 or 3 is, 80+% done. We've already started on quarter 4. So I'm actually very pleasantly surprised with where we're at, and when this quarter is done, our testing churches are going to want quarter 2, and I think we'll be able to release that at January 1st as well. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how far we've come from ground zero. We had nothing to begin with other than our thoughts and ideas, and just creating the whole thing, and how far we've come, even with all of our busy schedules and lives. And it's just a great team working on it.
That's a good way to put it, how far we've come, because it's not just how much we've written, but I think each of us has progressed in our ability to do the curriculum. I know, when I started this thing, I felt like I was just fumbling along, like I was wearing a blindfold. I had never done this before. So, we had done it within our local church, but it's totally different. And just seeing the style, I can go back to our first lesson to where even the ones that are coming off the press now, they're way better. They're great.
It's just neat seeing it in final form too. It just blows my mind. And we had one of the books on his desk this Sunday, and 2 of the young ministers kind of came across it and started looking at it, and they were just amazed.
It's like real. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not
we can touch it.
Yep. It's not just a real thing. It's a high quality real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's not something that, honestly,
it's not my notebook. It's my little journal.
It's not. It's every single person that we've told that we're doing this and then put that in their hand. Every one of them, almost without fail, have been like, "Whoa, I had no idea it was like this."
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I think doing this testing, getting the feedback, it's another just a huge eye opener too, to see, because we talked the whole way through about things like best idea wins and how it is adjustable for all these formats and things, because we all do Sunday school differently. And to see it in all of these little different
niches or
atmospheres, I guess, different ways of doing it is just, it's pretty cool to read the feedback and see how it applies to each one.
Absolutely. And the neat thing is that the pastors that have seen it are all very positive on it. I was just at a meeting today of some local ministers in our area. There's probably 15 of them there. And there was a few of them that had it, that they were some of the ones that were testing it. I'm telling you, they were talking it up to the rest of the group. I mean, they couldn't say enough about the quality of it, going through it. They loved the topics that we were hitting, the way that it was presented. So it's exciting. A lot of really positive feedback.
Doctrine, purely apostolic.
Yep.
Our teacher that's testing it this week, he texted and said, it's so good not to have to just scour the internet to try to find something that is, good and fits and works, It just,
well,
right there.
Speaking of that, this is funny. Bree, who helps us on the curriculum, she actually texted me today. She said, I was trying to find a lesson because I had assigned her to the final lesson on one of the days. She said, I was just thinking, man, what am I going to do for the final lesson? She said, then I realized I had a book that was telling me what to do. She said, I've never had that since I've started teaching. So even the person that helped write the curriculum was like blown away that, hey, I have a resource that I don't have to
always wanted.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And what's neat is the curriculum, has always been a guideline, a foundation, and the teachers can take it, wherever they want. And so as we're progressing, our teachers alone have tweaked something that on paper looked good, but then they added their own flair to it. And I'm like, that's great. We're going to add that in. And so I'm hoping that you guys do that as well. And your teachers and all the other testing teachers can throw that feedback back to us. Like we had a guy that did the Moses and the 10 Commandments, and he did a fabulous job. And he recorded a whole audio background skit for it. Well, I since then went into Canva and added a QR code that points to his audio file. And now we're going to be recording in video form so they can look at that if they want. Then we'll have another one for the Josiah building the temple. And then we just did Adam and Eve this last Sunday, just yesterday. And it was a knockout. It was great. So we're going to video record that and just put a QR code, say, hey, this is how one church did it. And you can look at it and just get some ideas from it. So
I think that's that audio, adding in the audio video as we go is it's another really good thing to build on. And I know the little bit that, we've heard from Brother Ashley, he says it just thrown together, whatever, but it sounds amazing and great. His puppet skit intros that he shared and things like that. Like there's so much potential
there is. And the really thing is, this is an evolving product. So we've said this over and over again, but if you order the curriculum, you're buying the current version. You're not buying one that's been sitting in storage for a year until we sell out of it. You're buying whatever the changes have been implemented. We are editing that file and it's going to the publisher. And when you order, you're getting the current, most recent version. So I love that concept, is that you're going to always get the newest product. And somewhere in there, we need to keep like a version number. I was thinking about that in the PDF. We just need to put like, V 1.1, 1.2, 1. And so when we can compare books and say, oh yeah, you got an old book, you need to buy a new one.
Yeah, we're LV 1.99999.
Yeah. But I was thinking too, because I've had many requests from our testing churches for a digital copy of the same thing. And I have no problem distributing that. I just ask them, especially before January, don't send it all over the place.
Yeah.
But what do you guys, I know this is the conversation, not necessarily having a podcast, but probably with every book we sell, maybe there's a link in there to get the latest PDF as well. if we could restrict it enough where you can't, I don't know. I don't know. Just something to think about. So if they're buying it, they can always still have access to the current version by scanning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just having
I don't know.
back to, that PDF, that current edited, updated.
Yeah. And when I'm doing a quick something, like I want to look up something real quick, I don't even think to grab a hard copy. I almost always go to my digital copy. I don't know if that's normal or not, but probably a lot of people might think that way. Not sure.
Well, iPads, tablets are so prevalent now that it's super handy to have in that format. I don't know.
Yeah. We can talk about that as a group. Like, do we just make that a perk of buying a hard copy? You automatically get access to the digital copy as well. I think it makes sense to me. I just don't know how to restrict people just willy-nilly sending it to anybody that wants it. Or maybe we just honor system. Hey, we're all Christians, so you either, you're a pilot or a Christian. I don't know if that'll make
challenges.
Maybe I have to.
Technology.
Yes, sir. So I'm just curious. I had a few questions kind of prepped for you guys about the curriculum in the writing of it. Is there, maybe there isn't one, but what is the biggest challenge, obstacle that you've ran into in the curriculum so far? Something that, something we've overcome as a group that maybe you've encountered that we didn't expect? Or is there anything?
For me, the hardest part is always getting myself started on the lesson. Like you've done so many lessons over the years and different things that always is for me, what's the first thing I need to do to get started? Once the ball is rolling, I can sit in here and just knock it out. But getting the ball rolling it's a challenge for me. And I don't know what for you, but that's one of the toughest things for me is just getting started.
I think trying to make sure that I'm doing something different, not doing the same type of stuff every time, or if someone else has done, if someone else has done this type of object lesson or a certain way to teach the memory verse, I'm not repeating that too soon from the last time. I think I struggle with that a little bit, and then just making sure I have all the content that we're wanting to put into it. Those are two of the biggest things. And then just, I have it here, but putting it down on paper and making it where I'm really conveying my intention, I guess, can be a struggle sometimes because it's just a lot of work typing it out. But
yeah, that's really good. Keeping the variety.
That's a super good point. And I didn't even think to say that, but yeah, it's a challenge that I'll catch myself in the same rut over and over again. And a lot of times reading your guys' material or, Eric's or Jason's or one of these guys that have, or ladies that have written something will really kind of like, oh, how come I've never thought of doing that? And it wakes me up to their other ways of thinking. And that's why I love reviewing other people's lessons, not to make them better, to make me better. It really does open my mind up.
Yeah, the editing process has been fun because you do see and you can almost hear the different voices as you're reading through and seeing what it is. Like it's neat to see and to experience, I guess, as you go through it.
And really, some of the repetition is great because we need that. I mean, that's how kids learn. Repetition is good, but you also need that variety with them also. So it just, I don't know. Finding that right balance, I guess, is where it is struggling. Struggling, is that a word? Struggling.
Yeah. I did find, especially this last Sunday, that there is a world of difference between reading something and editing something and thinking that it's, hey, this is pretty solid, and then teaching it. So we did the lesson 4, Sin and Salvation, quarter 1 last week in Sunday school. And on paper, it's really good. And it's good in its entirety. I'm not downplaying it. It's good. But when you put it into practice, you realize, ooh, okay, I want to tweak this. Like at the beginning, let's just one for instance, that one about sin and salvation is talking about the Garden of Eden where you're tempting, Adam and Eve are tempted in the garden. Well, it starts out with like almost a modern parallel of that, where they're tempting the goofy apprentice or the goofy assistant, and even tempting the kids to do something they shouldn't. Well, that was something we're like, ooh, I don't mind tempting the assistant, but I feel a little weird tempting the kids. I feel like we're setting them up for failure.
Right.
So we rolled that back, and we just tempted, the assistant, and they had like a snake come out. Oh, come on! Did the teacher really tell you that you couldn't have the gum in the jar? And so they did pass that jar around to the kids and let them take a candy, but they said, "Don't touch the gum. Don't touch it." And none of the kids did. In fact, when the Sally, in our case, instead of Billy, when she grabbed the gum, the kids lit her up. I mean, they were not okay with it. But it was a good tweak, and we're going to make that in the curriculum itself, because I think that's a better way to approach it, and it still has the same effect. In fact, when we told the Bible story of Adam and Eve, and then they realized, oh, that's what just happened, and Adam has the apple, and the snake jumps up and starts telling him, "Come on, just eat it," and the kids start screaming, all of our class, "No, don't eat it, put it down, don't eat it." It was so good. It was so good.
Making it come to life like they get it.
Yep. And then at the very end of the class, I don't know if you read through that lesson lately, but there's a part in there where it's like a chant, but it's at the final lesson. So it's the plan of salvation, but it's a very different chant. It's like you have all the kids marching in place. I don't know if you guys remember this lesson, and you're kind of doing like, we're walking through this life, the world's full of hate and strife, and we're trying to make our way to heaven. And then you tell all the kids, repent and baptize in Jesus' name, receive to get the Holy Ghost and obey. Anyway, if you read it on paper, honestly, I didn't know how it would go in real life. And it was something I never would have written, ever. It's not my style. It's not something I would have done, but it worked so well in class. I don't remember who wrote it. I think one of the Hammonds wrote it. It was so good. And the kids really responded to it, really got involved. And then the last part, I actually ended up throwing an object lesson in there because I like to teach with a visual, and there really wasn't any at the end. Right. So I ended up adding one in there. But anyway, it was so cool to use other people's thinking in our class and see it work.
It totally will get you out of your comfort zone and out of your own, and just trying something new. I think in Sunday school in general, that's one of the things, like I love characters and object lessons, but like if I can put a silly character to something, I'm going to. And I think, we had one teacher that her big thing was games, and she had everything was a game, and it was so awesome. Another, it's songs, and it's just like, it's cool to see people do that, and be who they are, but then to try something different that's not you, that's not your typical, is super fun too. Like it's a good challenge, I guess, for people to break out and to step out and to figure, oh, hey, that really does work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can do that too, because sometimes it's a confidence level.
Right. Yeah. You're telling a story, and all kinds.
Yeah, because I was almost tempted to nix that last part just because it wasn't in my wheelhouse.
Right.
I'm really glad I didn't, because I kind of almost had to force myself to use that. And what I did, the kids, they really responded well. And then we ended it with so we actually did the object lesson. Have you guys seen that pool noodle and a pool noodle send? So you have man, God, and send on the pool noodles on a rope. I don't know if you've seen that object lesson. Well, anyway, I used that, but I did the first part, and then I did that chant in the middle, and then I ended it at the end where you rip the sin out, and then man and God are able to get back together again. After that, it worked so well. And then one of our teachers added in this song. Have you heard the song Rescue Me by Group? It's just a real slow, really pretty song. I'm telling you, it's Rescue Me is what it's called.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful song. And it had all like kind of funneled down to that point. They played that song. Then we did the final lesson. I'm telling you, it was so powerful in there. I posted in the chat, but we had a little boy.
Yeah.
I've never seen him pray. I can't even get him to sit still. And this little boy prayed for at least 15 minutes straight. One spot, eyes closed, praying, not fooling around, not trying to impress anybody. His sister's over there. I've never seen her pray, bawling her eyes out, crying. Oh, it was so cool. It was a great altar call. So anyway, it was neat to see it be effective.
I think altar call is another one that some places it's not a common part of the format, and just given the opportunity to pray and to actually pray, not just a quick out the door right before we go or right when we come in, pray for your dog or whatever, but to give an actual opportunity to pray and get that relationship with God and build right there in a classroom it's a big impactful difference.
Yeah, that's so true. And some people think, well, my particular situation isn't set up for an altar call. Just try it. Try it. It may be uncomfortable the first few times, but just try it. You'll be blown away that kids will respond. They will. You just got to build almost a habit out of it.
We have a different format where we do our kids' church together, and then we go to classes, and then we go downstairs to worship. And I think there's a huge difference when we've had kids' church, Sunday school, and in our classes, and then we go down there and you see the kids applying it at the altar too.
Oh, that's so cool.
Big church right after. So it's been a neat, fun,
absolutely
time.
So on that curriculum, Sister Kim, you've written a lot of it. You are like a workhorse on the curriculum. So what is like your favorite part of the writing process? This is for both of you, but Sister Pelletier, you seem to write these more than the rest of us sometimes. Sometimes I spend more time editing than writing, but you guys have both written a lot. But for both of you, what is the part you enjoy the most?
I try to make a connection to real life. I think I try anyway. I didn't have a whole lot of church when I was a kid, so I've always, even with my own kids, I've always tried to. I just want God to be real to them, so I want them to experience God. So I try to just coming up with a way to relate to them individually, I guess, just burns in me, I guess. So just trying to find something that meshes with their life and what they experience is what I try to reach for. And then just coming up with the fun stuff, neat stuff.
How about you, Brother Jay? What do you enjoy the most?
Yeah. I want
What's that I miss
to them and remember. Oh, yeah. I want them to remember it. Like I can remember little things, like I even in school, just little things that we did. I remember those, and I want that kind of type thing for them. I want them to remember when they're 20, 30, 40, and they have their kids. Hey, this is what I experienced when I was a kid. Let's go do that. If they've left church or when they're raising their kids, they can relate it back to what they experienced.
Absolutely. How about you, Brother James? Is there any favorite part of the writing process that you enjoy?
Oh, favorite part of writing? Probably the kind of the script pieces of it, like the story aspect of it, building in the different character. I mean, it comes down to characters, I guess. I'm surprised you didn't say editing though. She's an editing machine too. She knows how to. She knows. I guess
but
editing
it's not fun.
Well, you seem to enjoy. You seem to enjoy telling me when I did something wrong. I guess I just nicely said you're a fault finder. Oh, I'm in trouble. But I think the different characters, and I know, Gabe Baker, he's incredible with the skits and the theme skits. But yeah, I think making those characters come to life and looking through each week and seeing how the journey is, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it seems like there's a moment in every lesson that I'm writing where something clicks and it's like, oh, that's the piece I'm missing. It just like doesn't feel like it's quite there. And then all of a sudden you find the perfect object lesson or a song or whatever it is that just kind of ties it together, and you find the theme for the lesson. I know we have the topic, but it's like when it all comes together and you're like, I see it. And it's never the same time or the same way, but that's the moment that it feels like, I got it. And it's something, there's been a couple I've written that when I was done, it's like, man, I never really found that click. And then someone will review it and say, hey, try this. And that'll be that's what I was missing. That was it.
It's a brownie recipe when all those ingredients come together. It's just not a good brownie till you throw some kitty litter in there.
Hey, the feedback on that lesson has been great. Have you been seeing it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really...
Using those grape nuts and then eating it. Why didn't I ever think of that? Goodness.
The melted Tootsie Rolls? Yeah. Oh, my word. That looked horrific. Oh, my word. Those kids must have lost their minds. That was cool.
That was cool. That's like the world's best imitation edible kitty litter. Like, we'd not thought of this.
Although, to be honest, I think I might prefer kitty litter over grape.
Right.
For those that don't know what we're talking about, there's a lesson that I think, was it you, Brother James, that wrote it?
Well, was it you?
I don't know. I know I did a kitty litter brownie.
I think it was
one of my lessons that I wrote. But
give us like a 30-second rundown of the lesson so it'll make sense what we're talking about.
So you basically bring all different kind of ingredients. You have a recipe, just like we have the Bible to follow for our life, for our plan of salvation, and you can apply it in a lot of different ways. But you have all the different ingredients. You have the recipe, but I don't have this ingredient, so I'm going to throw this in this instead, and you end up creating this nasty concoction. And then in the end, in the traditional kitty litter brownies, you have a dove pan, a magic trick where you make that, and then it has a hidden insert. You can light it, which is cool because the fire. And then when you open it up, you actually have an edible good thing. But it all, you have that whole lesson of you need to do it God's way. But even if we make a mess of things, God can make it right. So there's a lot of good little applications for that lesson, but that's pretty much the essential.
Yeah. So Samantha Bradshaw from Union City, Tennessee, instead of kitty litter, she put in the grape nuts, and instead of some of the other gross ingredients, she actually put kitty droppings in there, but they were Tootsie Rolls that were melted to look like it. And then at the end, she actually ate it in front of the kid, and so they lost their minds. It was just grape nuts and Tootsie Rolls, but really, really funny. So, but we've heard, I don't know how many people now have mentioned that lesson specifically, 5 or 6. So like, that was a banger. That was the one. So I love it.
Yeah.
Now that you guys are teaching it in your local church, what's the overall feedback from your teachers? Are they happy to have a curriculum, or is it? I'm just curious. What's their overall feel?
Yeah, we're doing it in our preteen class, 5th grade and up. And the others were using the old stuff still, but that's what we're doing for our preteens. And he's really Philip, Indiana. They're awesome, and he's enjoying it. Where I think he'll be doing week 4 this coming Sunday. And yeah, it's been good because it's not, like you said, he's not scouring the internet and looking for things, and it's right there, and it's a consistent, thorough, end-to-end kind of thought. But his big feedback was, he was thinking before we were doing this, he was looking at, he said he was praying, and he was, kind of in his own, he didn't call it a rut, so I don't want to call it a rut, but in his own system and just way it, in kind of routine probably is the better word for it. And he was looking for a way to shake it up and to break out of it. And he was looking through the curriculum, and he's like, this is so different from his style that he really wasn't sure how that was going to go and how it was going to feel. And then he said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And he told me last week he's glad he did, because it's just different, and it's broken up his own habits and routines, I guess, and made it fresh instead of old.
That's so cool.
He's a big object lesson visual teacher, and the curriculum we were using does not have very much of that, and so he was always looking for something to add to the curriculum in that regard. And now with this, he doesn't have to. He actually made a comment or text us and said, I'm just glad I don't have to look for something every week to do. So, because it's in there. So that was a big
That's so cool. Yeah. And for our teachers, they've had to do the same thing. They've been scouring the internet, working on writing the lesson and not refining it as much. So now they have this curriculum, and I make it a big point every Sunday to tell them, spend the same amount of time that you spent before on this and think of how good it's going to be. And I think that's why maybe they're coming up with some of these audio background tracks and some of the other things, is because they are still spending that amount of time, and they're able to, okay, we already have the skeleton of it. We already have a foundation. And honestly, if you went straight out of the book, it'd be fine. But they're like, okay, I'm going to spend the same amount of time. You told me to, so I'm going to spend, a couple hours and make this thing next level. And so now it's cool. We're able to give that to another church. And now they have that as an additional piece that they can possibly look at. So that's exciting.
So good. That's exactly it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I would love to take that further, not just with the testing churches, but from here on, once we start selling these to whoever wants it, make it some sort of mechanism. And I don't have this figured out, and we just need to make something that's as easy as possible for people to constantly give us feedback and ideas and additions, changes, corrections, where we can be adding to this curriculum all the time. Where, once we've taught it, once our churches have gone through it, it'll be another 3 years before we go back. Mm-hmm. And that I would love to see all the churches that are teaching it and tweaking it and making it better, to see that implemented. I just don't know what that mechanism looks like, but there's got to be an easy way. There's got to be. Just a hope.
Yeah, I think it just builds and builds and builds. And
mm-hmm. And the way we wrote it is, it's not dependent on dates. So there's probably always going to be someone teaching every quarter once we have it all written. Or at least that's...
I sure hope so.
What we hope.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like a Facebook group or a forum or something where everybody teaching this can jump in and say, hey guys, I'm teaching lesson 7 of quarter 2. This is something I want to be trying this week. What do you guys think? And we go, oh yeah, I just did that 2 weeks ago. Try this. That would be so cool. What a cool conversation to have of a bunch of people that have taught it or will be teaching it soon. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. Maybe
that makes you wonder, like, does Planning Center have something like that where different people from different churches could be in a group together and share those things, and you'd have that group dedicated to this quarter, this book, A1, book B3 or whatever.
Yeah. There's got to be something. There's got to be. But
the social aspect of it.
Figure it out. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Social aspect of the teachers getting together and brainstorming on stuff. But we were just at your church. Goodness gracious. How long's it been? Oh, a month ago? your children's revival at your church?
Yeah, September, last weekend of September.
Okay. Yeah, so coming up on a month. And you guys do such a good job of that children's revival. I'd like to pick your brains a little bit. And if you don't mind, maybe you can share some insight to everybody on, well, let's just start. Like, what's the format of this revival? How often do they happen? What does that look like?
So pretty much each year, and typically we've done it in different times in the year, but what we've settled on is for us right at the 1st of October. Typically this year it was the last Sunday of September because of the 5th Sunday, so we wanted something special. But just one service a year. What we've been doing for years now is having a kids revival, a kids crusade, and just a big the service is 100% dedicated to our kids, basically, and we have, so service kicks off at 1:00, but kids start arriving, early. So from 12:20, 12:30ish to 12:45 out back, we'll have different activities going. In years past, we've had different rotation, like games and activities. This year, we did it different because we used that science lab theme. And so this year we had different, basically they were object lessons out there, different rockets type things that we made explosions.
Things you can't do inside.
Yeah, the things you can't do inside. Although we might try sometime. And so we did that beforehand. 12:45 to 1:00 is kind of a get ready, get in the sanctuary, get a seat, have, music and stuff like that's going. And then 1:00, we just kick off service with some songs, with some fun stuff. Of course, tithe and offering. And then we just, like this year, you were here. And so
I've got to say, Brother James, you were living on the edge a little bit at the beginning of service when you were letting the kids tell their own jokes. I was thinking, oh, Lord, protect that man. Because I would not be doing that around the kids.
You never know what to say.
As recently, I have a ton of jokes that I do up front.
Oh, you had plenty, for sure. I wasn't, you had a lot. But man, you were letting those kids tell jokes. I'm like, oh, Jesus, here it comes.
Yeah, you gotta be selective.
Probably knew who to avoid. Yeah, there is that. I turned to the guy next to me. I'm like, oh my goodness, he is living on the edge.
Well, every year I try to get in trouble for something. So,
Well, it must not have happened because you went through unscathed on that part.
This year, like the response was amazing. At the end, the altar response was really, really. It was out of this world. And usually it's our number one service attendance wise of the year.
I was gonna mention that. You guys, it's not, I don't know how to say this. Some churches, it's like, okay, it's just a kid's service. The adults are staying home no matter what anybody says. They're like, it's just for the kids. That drives me bananas.
Yeah.
But you guys do such a good job of the whole church rallying. In fact, a big chunk of the church had the shirts that you guys printed. They were wearing them, and then when the altar call came, they swarmed up there and were praying for kids. That was so cool. So maybe you can give some insight on that, on how to get the whole church behind it.
Well, we do. We love AFT. It's our AFT. It's all of us, and it is a focus, I think, from leadership down, from pastor down. We're
all in
all the time for every, whatever it is that we're doing. We're going to do it as a church family. Like it's us. And, and it's really cool to see that everybody from elders and on down can get in to a kid's service. And I think,
so just on the shirts, so used to, the teachers would just dress like the theme, as part of the theme, so that we stood out. We're teachers, we're part of the Sunday school. And then a few years ago, we decided to make shirts for the teachers. So we did that, and then the whole church wanted shirts. So the last few years we've done shirts and just sold them. And so
okay, that's interesting. So you sell them to the church. How does that? What does that look like?
We're still learning that. Last year, one of our teachers and her husband actually, well, they're both teachers, but they actually made the shirts. So I think they made 100-something shirts, which was, we tried to take that off of them, and we used a Printify. Our daughter actually designed the shirt this year, and then we just uploaded that design and had them printed. And it was easier. It wasn't all a burden on a few people, but
it was easier in some ways. I'm not sure. I mean, we sold a lot of shirts.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to be
the way we do it going forward, but
sure. Did you do a group order, or did you have everybody go in and order their own?
Yeah,
online?
We did a group order. And so pretty much, after service, we'd take the orders, and then we placed one big order and had it come in. Of course, human error. My humanity showed. I missed a couple, so I had to do a second order. But it really wasn't. It wasn't too bad of a process at all. But
so how early did you start that to get them all in time?
This year, so last year it felt like we did it up until the last second. But this year we did the orders in August. The month of August, we took the orders right after Labor Day. I placed the order. And then we went on vacation, which I don't know.
Don't do that right before a big event.
But when we came back from vacation, the shirts were there. So I was able to get through them and fix my few errors at the last minute there and get them in.
I thought that was just so neat that the whole church, you could tell this isn't just the Sunday school department wearing these shirts. That was really cool. So how much did you sell them for, if you don't mind my asking? I don't know if that's a tacky question to ask.
Yeah, we sold them for $20, $25 for the 3X, 4X. And pretty much it was a break even. It wasn't like a...
Sure.
Yeah.
That's where I think if we do it ourselves and we do the labor ourselves, I think we can kind of use that to pay for some of the crusade, the event itself, because it can be a pretty...
Yeah.
So we try not to make the shirts too expensive to where people can't get them. So
that was really cool. That was neat seeing the church obviously representing, like as they come in, you'd see all these different people wearing the same shirt. I'm like, that.
Yeah. And actually,
I don't know how they did
years ago, it was just the teacher, the volunteer kind of thing. And then it's become over the last few years, a church-wide big, way to show unity, I guess.
Sure. No, I love it. I loved everything about it. So you said you order those in August. So what other prep is long-term prep, or how early do you guys start on other stuff? Because you guys go all out. I love the decor. I love the decorations. That stuff doesn't happen overnight.
We try to start early.
So once I know a theme, what our plan is, then I can get an idea of how extensive the decor is going to be. And pretty much we plan the outside activities, like we get bouncies and stuff like that. So we'll see what we can find that corresponds with the theme for that and get that reserved. So we have our camp meeting at the end of June. So really after camp meeting is full throttle crusade planning and decoration.
So that means July, August, so 3 months?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So during that whole time is, using Pinterest to get ideas and decor ideas and trying to find the best and least expensive way to make that decoration stuff. Buying all the things. And then last year was a lot more work intensive because it was candy theme and we had to make a lot of candy props. So we had a lot of work nights last year. This year wasn't so much because it was all just stuff we had, basically. So it was a lot easier to manage. There wasn't as much prep. There was a lot of purchasing and just kind of organizing. But other than that, it was easier this year.
Well, and I think we have different teams that do different things. So there's like the pre-activity small group of us that do that. And then Kimberly really does a ton with the decoration. And it's always just crazy out of this world. And she's got several that really make that happen. And then there's the food team, and then the volunteers for the after service, the fun and games out there. And actually, I think that's pretty cool. Brother Aaron Allen, he's like one of the quietest, laid back guys you've ever met, and he's not Sunday school, all year long. But for Kids Crusade, he's our volunteer coordinator, and he makes sure that everybody's out there where they're supposed to be, and leading the charge for our after service activities. And I think it's another example where it's everybody coming together, and not just a Sunday school thing, from the kitchen to the afterward to the decorations and everything. It's cool. It's fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You answered the question I was about to ask, which is about delegating. How much do you guys do yourself? How much do you delegate out? That sounds really cool that you have separate.
We have learned. I think Kids Crusade itself has taught us how to delegate. The first couple was wild and not just not as good as they could be, because we didn't know what we were doing, but two, learning how to rely on the others and the people around you and they want to, folks like Brother Aaron Allen. He's, if he didn't do that, he'd probably be upset. He wants, people want to be involved, and so finding everybody's place, it's made it to where we can go on vacation 2 weeks or a week before the crusade. So it's pretty great to see that.
And I'm one of those personalities that I like it a certain way, and I have an idea and I want it that way. Well,
or it's wrong.
This year, because we went on vacation, I had to step back and say, okay, I want this done and this done before I come back from vacation. It needs to be done. And I made, I assigned people tasks, and that's hard for me to do, but it helped so much. I didn't have near as much stress. I mean, I was a little like, are they going to get it done? How's it going to turn out? But
oh, they're going to get it done. They're good.
But
No worries.
They were awesome. They took care of it. And we went with you before you caught your plane. And so we weren't there to clean up. We didn't do any of the cleanup. That was church. That they took care of it. And then, I put stuff back later, but I mean, they did it all.
That's incredible.
Everyone. It was awesome.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you guys really had a lot of people in there. We could have a whole podcast on delegation, and it's really hard to delegate sometimes. Like you said, you want it a certain way, and you're just afraid that if I hand this off, and sometimes you hand it off and they take it further than your expectations, and sometimes, God help you, it's not nearly what you hope for. And then you're worried about hurting their feelings and making it different and better. Mm-hmm. It's such a fine line.
You learn their personalities and what they can handle and what their strong suits are. Yeah. And we have one lady, she's always been in the toddler class. I wanted a mad scientist on the platform, and I gave her an idea, and she ran with it, and she did awesome. The guy in the puppets stage that was standing there, she made him. And then it was just so cool to see them, I guess their talents being used.
Yeah.
It makes everyone just feel like a team. It's awesome.
I love it. Anything else about that children's revival that you guys do that maybe is unique or different that you might be able to share with other people? If not, it's okay. I'm just curious. You guys do a really good job at it.
I know something you mentioned was the fact that we actually decorate the foyer, we decorate the sanctuary, we decorate the fellowship hall, the food is themed. I mean, it all meshes together and creates that experience for the kids.
Yeah, from the start to the finish, we try to have that theme throughout as much as we possibly can, whatever the theme is.
Yeah.
And then it definitely is everybody. Just takes everybody.
Yeah. So you guys did a Mad Scientist theme. What was it? You Matter
Last
to God?
year was
Is that what
candy. It was all different kinds of candies and sweets. We've done a space theme. We did a underwater shipwreck. That was 3 years ago. We did overflow. So we actually had like a waterfall coming out of the baptismal all the way down.
Yeah, that's right. Your baptismal, for those that don't know the layout, is like on a second floor. So it's quite high in the sanctuary. So
and the baptismal is right behind where the pulpit would be, which the pulpit's removed for the crusade, but we had water.
Not real water. No real water.
It was balls of tablecloth type stuff, material coming out of the baptismal to represent a waterfall. And then we had a bass fish, those big bass pillows.
Bass prototype.
Turned it into a costume. So
that's awesome.
It was a bass.
I like that we did that old time.
Hullabaloo, was that year?
No, it was just like an old time. I don't know that we had a specific name for it, but it was like an old time, like a ventriloquist vaudeville, I guess. The top hat type.
Okay, like Victorian
tuxedo type theme one year. I don't remember what we called it, but it was fun, and we had. I was a human dummy, ventriloquist dummy, and so it was big.
Speaking of that, you are one of the most fun people I have ever worked with. What was your name again?
Ivana Go Boom. Ivan A. Go Boom.
Oh,
I still was some of the kids coming up. Go Boom.
It was so good. I've worked with a lot of different people, but you were so much fun.
I had a lot of fun. This year's crusade. Just anytime I could be a goof, like that character, like I'm not too good at being serious, but I'm pretty good at goofing off, I guess.
It was great.
Well,
yeah, I think we were more off script than on.
Yes, well, I work better that way. I think just make it up as I go.
Me too.
Like when it's Giraffe, like I'm surprised at what Giraffe says. Like I don't know what he's gonna say.
No,
that's awesome. I
never know what he's
called Super Freddy. He does the same thing. Yeah.
I will say that we had so many people say that this was the best year, and they loved having you. And the fire was.
We enjoyed being there.
It was awesome.
Fortunately, was futurely good.
You should have seen our pastor's face.
No permanent damage.
There was a whole row. It was pastor and two of our elders were in the back, and they were like, "It's hilarious."
It's so funny. We did check for sprinklers ahead of time.
It was safe. It was all safe.
Oh, we did.
That was so much fun. But you guys do an incredible job. We've been going for almost an hour. I just have basically one last question, because you guys have been doing this for a long time. How long have you been involved in children's ministry, the two of you?
We've been involved in children's ministry basically since we got the Holy Ghost in '96. A few months after we both got the Holy Ghost in February of '96, and I know by August of '96, I think we were both involved. She was involved in Routes. I was involved in Kids Church. And then in 2011, I think, is when we took over the department. We've done different things throughout. Always been involved since then in either kids church, ministry, teaching, and now leading the department.
That says so much, not just about your level of consistency and dedication to, doing something for the church, but it's hard to find people that are consistent. It really is, for someone that's going to do it for that long. And if you had to give advice for someone, for anybody out there, I hear the term burnout a lot. And honestly, I don't understand it, because I like, it doesn't make sense to me. I love it. I had someone, this is years ago, I got to be careful what I'm saying, but that wanted to rotate our teachers. And I was one of those teachers to be rotated. And I threw a fit. I mean, not bad. I was a Christian, but I was like, why? Did I do something wrong? Did I mess up? They said, well, we don't want you to burn out. I'm like, no, I won't burn out. Please don't swap me out. But there are some that do feel that burnout a little bit. So do you have any advice for people to stay passionate about it, energized about it? Is there any tips you can give people along those lines?
To me, and I'll let you inherit this, but to me, the biggest thing is, one, you just got to love whatever it is that you're doing, and want to do the best at whatever it is. And yet, I don't feel like I've ever gotten even close to the potential. And so I'm always learning. I'm always thinking, what can I do better? Like our crusade, I want it so much better. Like, I think this year was so much fun. It was incredible. I loved every bit of it. But what can I do better next year? What can I do to make it more impactful next year? How can, and to me, it does come like I've from the beginning, I've loved God and what he's done for me, and I don't ever want to stop it. And I think for me, kids church, kids ministry, I think back to what would my life be like if I had got this when I was 7 instead of 17? What would I have not experienced if the light bulb would have flipped on at 7 and I'd have understood the Holy Ghost and what God wants to do in my life 10 years earlier than what he did? And how can I help that next person to do that? How can I help these kids growing up to get a hold of that and do that? And I guess the burnout comes because I'm never satisfied. Like I'm never, we haven't arrived. We just haven't peaked, I guess. And, I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing, and I want to keep reaching for that.
I love that. Sister Kim.
I'll apply it to, like, when I was homeschooling my kids, I always had to remind myself, homeschooling is hard work. And I always had to remind myself the why. What is my why? And if I remembered my why, I could keep going. And I remembered, why am I doing this? It's because I want to instill the truth in them. I want them saved. I want them to have a relationship with God. And I want these kids that are coming from a rough home to know that they're loved. What is my why? And if I keep remembering my why, my burden, my desire to do the work is reignited. And really, and I do understand burnout because I do get it at times, but it's when I'm doing my routine and not remembering my why. Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
Both of those go hand in hand. Yeah. You can't get in a rut if you're always trying to get better, if you're willing to change things up and remembering why we're doing this. Oh, that's so good. There's a short lesson that we'll do sometimes for kids about the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. You can have acceptable or good or the perfect will of God. And I tell the kids, like, if you want the perfect will of God, you have to start now. That's the perfect will of God. He's starting when you're young. You can wait and have a good, maybe even wait till you're 60 and sneak in. You've got to, obviously the caveats are you may not make it there, but if God tarries, you may live for God for 5 years and still go to heaven. But that's just the acceptable will of God. How much did you miss out on by not starting when you were a kid, by not starting when you were young, by giving them your best years? So, I love that. That's so good. You guys are inspiring, and I'm so happy that I've met you. So happy that we're able to work together with this curriculum and everything else that we're doing. But you guys are an inspiration, and I'm so glad we got to know you.
Same from us to you.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on the podcast. We could probably talk quite a bit longer, but it took me an hour to get set up. I already burnt your whole evening. So anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody out there, we'll see you next time. God bless.
Thank you.